It was Sunday, 17th of December, 1967. The weather was hot and humid. The Australian Prime Minister, Harold Holt, was enjoying a weekend away at his beachside home in Portsea, Victoria. Along with Alan Stewart, Marjorie Gillespie, Vina Gillespie, and Robert Simpson, Holt was awaiting the arrival of Alec Rose, who was attempting to sail around the world on his yacht, the Lively Lady. Rose was set to arrive at Port Phillip Bay that day, but this would never eventuate, so the group decided to head home. Holt, on the other hand, suggested they take a quick swim at Cheviot Bay before they go to lunch. This would be the last time the Australian Prime Minister would ever be seen again. Following the retirement of Robert Menzies in 1966, Harold Holt assumed the prime ministerial role on January 26, 1966. He was the obvious predecessor to Menzies, representing the views of a new generation of Australians. From an early age, Holt was viewed as a talented politician with a promising career. In 1935, at the age of 27, Holt was elected into Parliament, making him the youngest politician of his time. He enjoyed a long career representing the seat of Fawkner before becoming the nation's treasurer in 1958. His experience in this role ensured he would become the 17th Prime Minister of Australia in 1966. His political career aside, Holt enjoyed an active lifestyle, partaking in golf and tennis in his spare time. His biggest passion, however, was spearfishing. Holt served as Prime Minister at a time when private life and public life were largely separated. He could indulge in these passions without the hassle of a nagging press and public. His beach house in Portsea on the Mornington Peninsula provided him and his wife a place to relax and get away from politics. But most of all, it meant Holt could go diving off the coast of Point Nepean at Cheviot Beach. Cheviot Beach was said to be Holt's favourite place to spearfish. The waters were rough and the currents were strong, but Holt almost relished the challenge and went there as often as he could. In fact, on several occasions, Holt came close to drowning, but it never deterred him from getting back in the water. He was an avid spearfisher and saw it as a necessary part of his life. He would even think about it during his time in Parliament, practicing his ability to hold his breath during debates. According to those close to him, Holt did not fear death, rather expected it, and this can explain his enthusiastic nature for a sport many would not dare to try. Unfortunately, his fearless attitude would play a role in his unfortunate demise.
It is feared that the Prime Minister has drowned. A great search is being made for Mr. Holt off Portsea, Victoria. However, no official announcement has been made as to the fate of the Prime Minister.
On the day Harold Holt disappeared, the water was choppy and rough. So much so that the group Holt was with that day at Cheviot Beach refused to go in the water, as they did not feel the conditions were safe. Ever the risk taker, Holt ran into the water and began to swim around. It was not long before Marjorie noticed Holt was being swept out by the strong ocean currents. She would later describe it like a leaf being taken out, and before they knew it, he was nowhere in sight. This would be the last time Harold Holt was ever seen alive. Over the ensuing couple of weeks, one of the largest search operations ever in Australian history would be conducted. For the first few days, there was still hope Harold Holt might successfully be recovered alive and well. However, bad weather and rough sea conditions became an issue and search efforts were continually delayed. 50 divers were sent into the surrounding water, searching the cliff face, rock pools and the sea floor. The HMAS Cerberus and the HMAS Snipe were also deployed into the water along with police helicopters, but no sign of Holt could be found. After a week of searching, any hope of finding Holt alive had long been lost, and the focus turned to retrieving his body. Search efforts would continue until January 5th, 1968, when the operation was officially terminated. Holt's body was never found. It should be noted that 2 days prior to his disappearance, Holt was instructed by his physiotherapist that he should stop playing tennis and swimming as his damaged shoulder needed rest. Therefore, Holt was not in a prime physical condition and was left in a vulnerable state whilst in the water. In the official report, it was never described how Holt died or what caused his death. The general consensus is he fell unconscious after hitting his head in the rough current and subsequently drowned at sea. Although, due to the mystery surrounding his case, many outlandish claims have been made surrounding his disappearance. Suicide was a prominent theory. Many believed Holt willingly got into the water that day, knowing full well the currents would sweep him out to sea. This theory has largely been disproven by those that knew him. He had reached the pinnacle of political success only 2 years before and seemed in good spirits. It wouldn't have made sense for him to take his own life. Another theory is that Holt was assassinated by the CIA for trying to pull Australia out of the Vietnam War. 2 other theories involve submarines. One suggests he was kidnapped by a Japanese submarine. Another suggests he was picked up by a Chinese submarine and taken back to China as he was a spy for the Communist Party. Whatever you may believe, Harold Holt's body has still never been found to this day. A monument has been erected at Cheviot Beach in memory of Harold Holt. Unfortunately, the mystery of his disappearance has largely curtailed and overshadowed the legacy Holt left behind. In his short time as Prime Minister, he improved the rights of Indigenous Australians greatly by removing any discriminatory passages in the Constitution, subsequently making them Australian citizens for the first time in history. He began to take steps towards removing the shocking White Australia policy and champion the Asia-Pacific region. He had a progressive view of the future, and his ideals and beliefs carried on in the governments that preceded him. His wife Zara and 3 children were left behind that fateful day. Harold Holt's disappearance remains one of Australia's most famous and perplexing mysteries, and it will likely remain that way forever.